So, I want to start. We should go back to Korean case after the Korean economic crisis. So, Korea has economic downturn, huge economic downturn in 1997, and after that, things has been changed a lot. Of course, the state lead policies has been lower. That what I meant is that usually like state was always center, right? So that's what we have learned. But things had been changed because of push from the Western society. The U.S. Wanted the South Korea adopt uh, the neoliberal economy policy, which is they should lower the roles of states in the market and liberalized trade kind of things. So things have been changed a lot from like 1990s, and then but Korean economy has a faced huge challenge in 1997. Then we asked fund from the IMF, and IMF promised us to borrow money, but they limit, they suggest a lot of things from Korean government. And then one of the things that Korean government asks is lower its role in the market, lower state's role in the market, and then liberalized labor market. So Koreans were used to have lifelong or lifetime employment that was or seniority based um, salary system, wages system, but things had to be completely changed after that. So we will talk about it in on this week for sure. But I wanted to talk about like as a whole what happened. So after 1997 and Japanese case. So as I mentioned, Japanese has a project occurred in late 1980s. So Japanese government started to change from late 1980s. So its role, I mean, they tried to disintegrate it. So the period we call this disintegration period of Japanese case and the Korean case. I mean, things have been changed a lot, and we call all this state as a post-development state, or some scholars saying technology innovative state. So these states focus on technology development upgrade. So there are many names to point these two countries. So the MITI of Japan and EPB were main players for economic development. So MITI played the same. So MITI has changed the name as METI, as I explained. But MITI didn't disappear. It couldn't disappear, right? Because it's a ministry. But Kim Dae-jung government. So Kim Dae-jung became president after 1997. So 1998, he became the president of Korea, and he decided to abolish the EPB. It's because the so I want to explain. It's too bright. I can't adjust. So if you look at history, so for a long time, Korea has a dictatorship. So we had a dictators quite a long time, and then uh, so Korea became democratization 1987, and then we had a election 1987, and then we had the president, but he's from military. So even though South Korea's democratization, people still vote for the military personnel. And then he was ruled for 5 years, and the next president was Kim Yong-sam. So he ruled from 1992 to 1997, but he had the economic crisis during his term, and he's first civilian president. And the Kim Yong-sam was pro-democratization activist. So he worked and protested a lot for democratization. So he suffered a lot from during the dictatorships. And then next it was Kim Dae-jung. So Kim Dae-jung's second civilian president. So after Kim Il-sung, we selected always the civilian president. And then Kim Dae-jung also, he was pro-democracy activist. And he was tortured a lot, and he went jail. He almost killed by dictators, but he could survive. So both of them did a lot of things for Korean to contribute the increased level of democracy. And Kim Dae-jung, he thinks that EPB, the Economic Planning Board, is a symbol of dictatorship. So he thinks that we should abolish the organization. So that's why Kim Dae-jung abolished EPB, and then but its roles were taken by Ministry of Finance. So in Korea, which ministry is most powerful is Ministry of Finance. So, but we set the goal, and we still doing kind of things, but not only one ministry. So every ministry, they set their own goals like that. So it has been changed a lot, and Japan suffered from long-term economic downturn from 1990s because of the Plaza Accord. And the friction of trade with the U.S. starting from 1980s, and the Plaza Accord, so Plaza Agreement, Plaza Accord in 1985 challenged Japanese industry. So MITI reformed. They changed name. They changed the name of METI, and they established Machinery and Information Industry Bureau in 1973, and then they changed the name after that. In Korea, the financial crisis of 1997, the Korean state took various measures to make systemic change. So Korean government, they had to change. They didn't want to, but they had to change. And they have to implement neoliberal economic policies. So they realized they can't support as they did before after 1997. So they focused on R&D and innovation sector. And invention in cutting edge frontiers of science. That's what they help. So government decided to, government um, thought a lot what they should do, and then they thought that they can do without friction with other state is focusing on R&Ds. There's other ways to do so, not by providing subsidy to corporate sector, but by discharging leadership role in steering nation toward knowledge intensive economic system. There are many different ways to subsidize. So if you directly fund to firms, so this is not okay because we are member of WTO, and the U.S. was okay with South Korea's non-neoliberal policies because Korea was poor. And then after the, as you know, Soviet Union collapsed, and then there was no rivalry, right, between the Soviet Union versus the U.S. The U.S. became hegemonic state. The U.S. doesn't have to worry about like Soviet Union anymore. So South they do not. Uh, so the U.S. was okay with like Japanese development strategy or Korean way of development strategy, but it is not okay anymore after the Soviet Union collapsed. So they don't have to they don't have to be okay with that. So they started to tackle these states. So they tackled first China, first the Japan, and then Korea, and then now China. That's what it is. So it was okay first because they were not big enough or they were not competitive enough. But since things changed, the U.S. started to tackle these countries. So the Korea could not directly subsidize, that they change the strategy for R&D. So there are different ways of the supporting R&D. So for instance, so a lot of students got funding from government, right? So this is one of the ways of supporting R&D. So this is way of personnel, right? So firms should train the the, the personnel, their personnel, but if government trained instead of them, they don't have to worry about like double breach the law of WTO because this is government's role, right? And then at the same time, the firms can save the money out of this. So disbelief toward neoliberalism, the continuation of Korean disbelief toward neoliberal policies hinders countries' willingness to fulfill rollback state from the marketplace. This is very significant. So why Korean state stayed as it was? It's because Koreans do not believe neoliberalism. Well, we have a lot of incident for this. So first thing, if you remember Seoul Ferry incident, So Seoul Ferry incident, you probably know what was going on. So like there was a ship sink right in 2016. So this is one of the examples that why Koreans hate neoliberalism. The ship was remodeled after once they built, and then the government actually deregulate how much the ship wasn't that big at first when they built the Seoul Ferry, but the government deregulate to expand its size. So the ship actually the change remodeled their size, and then they actually the government deregulate these policies. So this is one of the result of new neoliberalism. So deregulation is not always good for many Korean people. So they think they will never forget their main role as a government. They think that government should do something. So if something happen, they always say, "Oh, government should do something." They do not think that this is their role or this is firm's role. So they always ask that government should play a role. So where this actual idea came from? It came from that the way of development of Korean society as a whole. So Korean society has developed it because of this government intervention. So we actually cannot forget what government did that. So we ask more and more to the government, and that's why even though the WTO, we all know that the Korea was a member of WTO, and then we all know that the IMF want Korea reform to more neoliberal approach. But Korean people do not believe this neoliberalism. They think that this is bad. So, I mean, the continuations of because of this belief of neoliberalism. So Koreans want Korean states play a role, even though we had this economic crisis. So Korea has a generous program to support SME. So I mean, if you remember clearly, I mean, I'm not sure whether you remember or not. So we have learned that the Korean state approach way of development is that Korean's government support large firm, right? So that's why we have a big conglomerate like that. And then Korea has generous program to support SME, small and medium, so medium entrepreneur. So we started to develop small and medium sized firms from 1997. So before that, we usually focus on big conglomerate, but Korea has changed to support these SMEs, a new breed to technology incentive startup. So we at the time, so Koreans firms usually focus on like computer sector or car sector. Right? This sound is from Ore. Ore, come on. So, uh, so we didn't have various industry. So from 1997, so Korean government realized that we need to breed more diverse technology, such as medicine kind of industry. So that's why we have a some famous medicine firms, not as much as famous the US, but like Celltrion or Celgen, Seagen, these kind of firms could grow after 1997 based on the government approach. So new breed to technology incentive startup, but thanks to that, because of these programs, we had a new industry could grow up. So like Kakao, so you have a Kakao to message, right? How Kakao grow is because of this initiative. And the Korean government created Kosdaq. Kosdaq, we have if you look at the stock market, so we have Kospi and Kosdaq. Kospi is for big firms like Samsung, Hyundai, but Kosdaq is for like small and technology incentive startup firms. So the size of Kosdaq is smaller than Kospi, but we created this to get attract more investment. So it created Kosdaq in 1996 to exclusively list new tech startup. So this is one of the ways to breed new firms. And so scholars actually give a name for Korean states. So maybe post-development state. So here, liberal development state. So this is mixed with neoliberalism and development state and techno-scientific state. So the state focus on technology or technology innovative state. So technology focus on technology and technology upgrading kind of things. So we can't decide which one is the best describe Korean development. Well, I don't know. It's up to you. But I think the post-development state is quite regional, right? Because it's after the development state. So we face different state for sure. So techno scientific state with clear mandate to fund prohibitively expensive scientific research that can positively pave the way for distinct techno scientific sphere. So not by providing subsidy to corporate sector, but by discharging leadership role in steering nation toward knowledge incentive economy system. Oh, hold on. Oh, sorry, it's the same, right? So yeah, sorry for that. So technology scientific state, as I explained, so government did not fund directly to the firms, but instead the government actually they take the roles for innovators. So if you remember, we have a pathfinder, right? Innovator and risk taker and the monitor, but the government doesn't do monitor anymore. I mean, they do monitoring, but the role is somewhat restrained. And Pathfinder almost gone, but we certainly the government focus on innovator sector. So And state intervention in Korea. So Keynesian economics and clearly refute neoliberal policy prescription. So that was before 1997, but it actually continued. So government should not develop intervene in the market anymore, but because of this discontinuation of Korean disbelief toward neoliberal policies, make Korean state inner center. The share of Korean stock market value owned by foreigners jumped from 13% in 1996 to 40% in 2003. So we can certainly say things have been changed, right? So it is quite different from the Chinese economic development, as I mentioned. But you can see like foreigners' market share has been changed completely after 2000. So this is because of the economic crisis. So economic crisis before that, we had of course foreign direct investment, but we did not feel attractions. We didn't feel attractive of these foreign direct investments. So we actually can kind of have phobia toward this foreign direct investment. But because of IMF want Korea adopt this foreign direct investment more, and then this is the result. I mean, you have to look at the numbers for like how long, like for 7 years, things have been changed. It's more than double, right? Almost triple. I mean, more than triple, right? So this is actually a very significant increasement. And during Kim Dae-jung administration, various reform initiatives were aimed to structurally transform Korean development state, and its intervention is policy tool. So South Korea at the time faced dual challenges. One is from external pressure. So external pressure is that Korea should change its policy from market intervention to neoliberal. So that's what IMF want from Korea. And then we have to liberalize the uh, labor market as well. So that's why after that we have a lot of irregular workers increase, and things haven't changed like that because of this 1997 economic crisis. But at the same time, the Korean people want continue the government play a significant roles. So the Kim Dae-jung government started a lot of initiatives. So at first, when he was elected, he has very favorable. So his approval rate was quite high, but his approval rate has been decreased because of this. So the government, even though they don't want to, they have to follow the IMF order, right? So that's why the government at the time had to liberalize labor market, and the people do not satisfy with this decision. So that's why his approval rate was down, like decreased like that because of this. So at the time they have dual challenges. So the government actually select is to increase R&D spending, but at the same time they want R&D spending so that the government play a role, even though it's limited to a certain sector. But at the same time, they start new project like medicine, biology kind of project, and or 5G kind of project. They start a new project on one hand, and the other hand, they liberalized a lot of things like the representative is labor market, free labor market. So I want to show Korea and Japan R&D spending. So this is share of total global R&D spending. Top 10 countries actually share almost 78.5. If you look at the number, it's surprising. Look at Asia. So Asia here, the Middle East is not there. Asia has a lot of countries, of course, but usually it's China, Japan, Korea. So 44.3%. So North America, we do have Canada and the US. So I mean, in terms of money as a whole, US is probably number one. So if you look at here, global share, US 25%, right? And China 23%, Japan 7.8%. So we had Germany 5.3%, India 4.0, South Korea 3.8%. So it increased its R&D share, right? After this 1997. So we didn't spend that much R&D before, but things has been changed after 1997. So Korea, many scholars actually called Korea as technology innovative state or technology scientific state because of this reason. So things has been changed after that. So we focused on the R&D spendings only.